Welcome to UGBS 207, Social Responsibility and Ethics. My name is Dr. Mahmoud A. Mahmoud from University of Ghana Business School. Clearly, this course is in two parts, and that is corporate social responsibility and ethics and how it applies in business. This course is made up of 13 sessions. This course is made up of 13 sessions, and the first session I shall try to introduce you to corporate social responsibility. We will try to understand what is it and what it is not, and how important it is and how unimportant it is to businesses. Session 2, we shall try to look at innovative CSR. And in session 3, I will introduce you to cause promotion. Cause-related marketing shall be discussed in session 4. Session 5, corporate social marketing shall be discussed. And in session 6, corporate philanthropy shall be discussed. Session 7 will take care of corporate volunteering. And session 8 will look at social responsibility business practices. In session 9, we shall discuss ethics. And CSR in Ghana shall be tackled in session 10. Leadership role in the two concepts shall be discussed in session 11, whereas strategy relationship with CSR and ethics shall be discussed in session 12. In session 13, which is the last session, we shall look at ethical issues that most businesses face. By way of overview for the introduction, the meaning and scope of social responsibility shall be presented in this overview. The definitions of corporate social responsibility and its relevance shall be discussed. The arguments for and against CSR shall also be explored in this session. Why CSR is gaining prominence among numerous stakeholders shall also be discussed in this session. The session shall also cover the forms of CSR issues in contemporary management. Now, this is the session objectives. At the end of this session, I expect students should be able to understand what is corporate social responsibility, understand the key issues in corporate social responsibility, be able to analyze CSR and explain the strengths and weaknesses of it. Understand CSR and how to identify CSR from other corporate initiatives. Be able to analyze and discuss the prominence of CSR among corporate institutions. Now, by way of outline, introduction to social responsibility shall be discussed, definitions of corporate social responsibility, why CSR, the principles of and criticisms of CSR, the prominence of CSR and forms of CSR shall be discussed in this introduction. Let me remind you that you can also visit the Sakai platform for further resources or further sources of material on CSR. Now, let's define corporate social responsibility. The short form of corporate social responsibility is CSR. There are many definitions of corporate social responsibility. As a result, a lot of terminologies have emerged as to what constitutes corporate social responsibility. Now, for the purpose of this course, I shall try to pick some few definitions to present to you. Corporate social responsibility can be defined as the accommodation of corporate behavior to society's values and expectations. According to Howard Bowen, CSR is an obligation that arises from the impact of corporate decisions and actions have on the lives of people. CSR concerns the acceptance of voluntary or additional responsibility beyond those motivated by economic interests and the law. Davis defines CSR as the firm's consideration of and response to issues beyond the narrow economic, technical, and legal requirements of the firm. Foster et al. Defines CSR as a company's actions that contribute to sustainable development through the company's core business activities, social investment, and public policy debate. McWilliams and Segel define CSR as actions that appear to further some social good beyond the interests of the firm, which are required by law. Clearly, you can see that CSR goes beyond firms' main objectives. CSR goes beyond the economic gains of the firm. The firm needs to reach out to the society when it comes to corporate social responsibility. It needs to go beyond its core objective to not only its stakeholders or its core like customer group, but beyond customer group, the larger society. CSR is interested in that. When firms are really practicing CSR, they are interested in the well-being of the larger society and not just the interests of its target group. There are some key concepts in the definitions that we need to appreciate as students. First of all, stakeholders. Here, who are the stakeholders? It means that firms' stakeholders are broad. They are beyond just the customer groups. The government is a stakeholder of the firm. Customers are stakeholders of the firm. Shareholders are stakeholders of the firm. The society as a whole are stakeholders of the firm. Concerns and needs. Needs. Society has an interest in firms' operations. The impact of firms' operations on the environment is of concern to society as a whole. So it is important we understand the government has some concerns when we are going beyond our boundaries. So there are a whole lot of concerns that business needs to be mindful of and not just interested in its customers as a whole. Voluntary. CSR activity is also voluntary. It's usually not by law, though law is part of CSR, but CSR requires that firms should go beyond what they are mandated to do things in a voluntary manner. There are several approaches to CSR in the literature. The views of Milton Friedman, the Archie Carroll, and Andrew Carnegie are very, very important. They are the prominent scholars when it comes to CSR, and a lot of subsequent work dwell on these scholars. Now, when we take Friedman's view about CSR, he argues that social responsibility of business is to increase profit within the requirements of the law. If a business person acts responsible by cutting the price of the firm's produce to prevent inflation, by making expenditures to reduce pollution, or by hiring the hardcore unemployed, that person is spending the shareholders' monies for a general interest. Now, Friedman's argument is that the responsibility of a business is to make a profit. It means that the larger society should not be a concern. It should inure to the benefit of the organization for CSR to be practiced. Though that is the view of Friedman, it doesn't mean that Friedman is saying that there is no CSR. CSR should not be practiced, as some people will usually misconstrue. His argument is that it should result into the benefit of the organization. Now, Carroll's also conceptualized CSR as having 4 components, and that is economic, legal, ethical, and discretionary, sometimes referred to as philanthropic. And here, Carroll's argument is that for a firm to practice CSR, then it must be economically what? Viable. It should be able to produce, it should be effective in producing goods and services for the economy. It should be able to meet the demands of its shareholders. It should make profit, and that is the economic angle that Carroll is looking at. Carroll also believes that CSR is practiced when firms obey the laws and regulations governing business, governing the environment in which the business is being practiced. So that is the legal dimension that Carroll looked at. Then also, CSR must be ethical. What it means is that the firm should go beyond just the legal requirements to do good for the society, even if the law does not require that the firm should do that. And that is the ethical dimension. So ethics usually goes beyond legal. And through ethical practices, we should be able to what? Codify some of these to become what? Law. Then we can also talk of discretionary, and discretionary is where firms will usually go in their own way to donate to society, to freely give out to society. The third person has to do with Carnegie's view on CSR. And Andrew Carnegie, the founder of the U.S. Steel Corporation, views corporate social responsibility on two main principles: the clarity principle and then the what? The stewardship principle. And the clarity principle requires that more fortunate members of society assist its less fortunate members, including the unemployed, the handicapped, and the sick, and the elderly. The stewardship principle requires businesses and wealthy individuals to view themselves as the stewards or caretakers of their property. Carnegie holds that the idea that the rich hold their money in trust for the rest of society and can use it for any purpose that society deems legitimate. It means that when you are wealthy, you are holding, in terms of the stewardship principle, you are holding it on behalf of the larger society as a whole. Now, there are several arguments for and against corporate social responsibility. And what it means is that whether businesses should engage in the practice of corporate social responsibility or not. There are arguments, and the arguments are sometimes positive and sometimes what? Negative. I've outlined a number of them here. For instance, the issue of profit maximization. This stems from Milton Friedman's view that the firm responsibility in business is to make profit and not to be responsible for the larger society. So it means that there is a kind of arguments not in favor of firms engaging in corporate social responsibility. The firm is to make profit, and that is those who seems to against. And resource fit. What those who argue this way are saying that for firms even to practice CSR, it must be in consonance with the resources that they have. If it doesn't make sense with the resources that you have to practice CSR, do not do it. Those who think about the resource fit issue. But if it's in line, then it makes business sense for you to do CSR. Then lack of accountability. Sometimes it's not possible. It makes it difficult for you to account for the CSR that you engage in. And that is why some will kick against the practice of firms engaging in corporate social responsibility. And just in line with Friedman, the business of business is to what? Is to business. So it means that this point also kick against the practice of CSR. And others also see CSR as a useless public relations exercise. That firms just do it to project themselves and not to help society. It's about projecting the brand, it's about projecting the corporate institutions, it's about projecting their products and not necessarily to help society as a whole. Then the issue of the idea of theft. Others also believe that when firms want to steal society, they're going to say that they practice corporate social responsibility. Say that when they do bad practices, they cover it up. So these are those who also kick against the practice of CSR. There is also lack of regulation of CSR. There is no clear-cut regulation as to how firms should practice CSR. Every firm is doing whatever they feel like doing. And that is where another challenge of corporate social responsibility, that some kick against it and they believe that firms must not practice CSR. Then imposes an equal cost to organization. It's another issue that most people will talk about. Because two firms, let's take those firms in the telecom industry, MTN and Vodafone. If MTN practices CSR and Vodafone is not doing that, it means that the cost of operations of Vodafone will go up, or MTN will go up, and that of Vodafone, meanwhile, they operate in the same market. So if one firm is practicing CSR and the other is not practicing, then the one that is practicing cost is likely to go up. And what it means is that it will place that firm at a what? Competitive disadvantage. Interdependence of firms and the society. Those who also favor that firms must practice CSR think that society and business are bedfellows. So when society is doing well, businesses will do well. When business is also doing well, society will do well. So that is why some also argue that they depend on each other. So firms should not leave society behind, but they should go ahead and implement CSR policies. CSR will help both society and business as well. Stakeholder interests may transcend financial benefits. Others also argue that firms should not just be looking at not just the profit, but they should look at the society well-being as a whole. And that can go a long way to rather help the business in the long run. For instance, a healthy society will have additional resources to patronize the products of the firm than the firm, a society that is not healthy, then that can also create problems for the business. Or in terms of its workforce, if you don't have a healthy society, then you cannot have a healthy workforce to deal with. Then CSR also helps attract qualified staff. It is also argued that when firm practices CSR, it's able to attract talented people who would like to be associated with the organization. Then when you are seen not to be practicing what society actually needs. If you are not helping society, then society, the talented staff might not want to work with you. But your involvement in communities will also attract qualified people to work with your organization. So these are those who also favor that CSR must be practiced by firms. It also minimizes government intervention. When a firm is seen to be helping society, then government also view the firm in a positive light. Then such a firm, a lot of attention will not be on that firm. And even if attention is going to be on that firm, it is going to be positive. Government will be willing to do business with you. But when you don't practice CSR, then society don't see it to be helpful, then government might not want to also assist you. Then improves corporate image. Practicing corporate social responsibility will also improve the image of the organization. That is goodwill. And we know what goodwill means. When you have a goodwill, it helps you. Sometimes you don't need to incur extra costs. A lot of businesses will come to you because of the goodwill that you have already. So good name speaks well for you. And sometimes you don't need to run adverts, you don't need to spend a lot of resources again, and yet you get more businesses coming to you because of the goodwill and as a result of practicing corporate social responsibility. Leads to improved financial performance. In the long run, if you get all these things, at the end of the day, the firm is able to, in terms of profitability, the firm will do well and its financial position will improve. There are 3 principles that govern CSR practices. The first one has to do with sustainability, and the second one has to do with accountability, and the third has to do with transparency. Now, sustainability in CSR practice, what we mean here is that the firm should be able to sustain whatever CSR programs that it intends to embark on. The firm should be thinking of not just the current generation, but generations yet to come. The firm should meet the needs of the current generations and should not jeopardize the future generations' ability to also achieve their goals. So that is what we mean by an CSR thing that you are doing. You should be thinking of how can it be sustained. It shouldn't be a 9-day wonder. Classrooms are built, for example, and sometimes you find that the classrooms are not being used. Okay? So this is what we are looking at. It shouldn't become a white elephant. The CSR programs that we embark on, we should be able to sustain it, and future generations should benefit from it. The second issue about CSR is that we should be able to account. Accountability is very, very important in CSR engagement. We should be able to account to the people the result that we are bringing. It shouldn't just be given to the society and yet you cannot account for. The society cannot really tell what exactly they are benefiting from what you are bringing in. You shouldn't spend more resources to deliver the benefit. Sometimes the processes of getting the benefits to the society outweighs what the society actually benefits. That's what we are looking at here. You should be accountable. You should be able to deliver more to the society and not spending more before sometimes there are arguments that those who do charity to communities usually spend more resources on themselves than what the community actually benefit. And this is what we are looking at in terms of accountability. There must also be transparency when we talk of CSR. We should be transparent. We should be able to tell exactly what we are bringing on board and not at the cover. Now, CSR has gained some prominence in recent times, especially in contemporary times. And a lot of attention is given to CSR. The prominence is as a result of a number of issues, a number of drivers that we need to be interested in. For instance, the issue of sustainability. All over the world, most governments are talking about the issue of sustainability. How do we cut down our energy consumption? How do we ensure that whatever that we do, future generations will be able to meet some kind of a better lives for themselves? So sustainability issues have gained attention, and a lot of bodies have talked about it. Globalization is also another factor that is making CSR prominent. The world is now becoming a small place, whereby whatever is happening in any other part of the world is affecting other parts. So as a result of that, if in Europe we are talking of corporate social responsibility, then in Africa we also have to talk about corporate social responsibility. So globalization is making it possible for CSR to gain prominence, probably from regions that it has picked up, is transcending to other regions as well. Governments are also interested in CSR issues, and bodies like UN, OECD, and then signing of compacts are all leading to CSR being gained prominence in the scholarly, in business, and in academia as well. The corporate sector is also interested in CSR. Corporate sector, when we talk of corporate sector, we are looking at businesses like the mobile telecom sector, the pharmaceutical industries are interested in corporate social responsibility. The banking sector, the financial institutions are interested in corporate social responsibility, and they are supported, and that is why it is gaining prominence. Communication is now technology is growing, and as a result of that, people are able to see whatever is happening in other parts of the world, and that is also aiding the CSR process. And then ethical consumerism is also another concern of consumers and the world at large, that people are mindful, saying that if your products and services are not ethical, they are not likely to buy it. So ethical consumerism is also gaining prominence, and as a result of that, CSR has gained some prominence in the world. And as a result of finance issues, investors are also interested in their money being invested in areas that are ethical, that are CSR driven. So because investors are interested in where their monies are going, then managers are mindful. They need to be to reach out to the society, say that investors will bring their resources. Investors will not like to take their resources to areas that it will be spent on unethical issues. CSR is also now a strategic business tool. The way CSR started probably was just to help society. But today, CSR has gone beyond that. It is now a business tool that businesses have found it prudent to use CSR to project the corporate institutions as well as their product and services. Also, there are social awareness and education about CSR. A lot of organizations are involved in CSR activities. A lot of institutions have set up to champion the CSR cause. And as a result of that, they've created awareness of what CSR is, and a lot of people are now interested in CSR. CSR is also gaining prominence as a result of crisis management. When companies find themselves in trouble, the best way they sometimes will go out of it is getting themselves involved in CSR. They are aware that when they do CSR and they found themselves in crisis management, CSR tend to help them. So crisis management is another thing that has really helped CSR gaining prominence in the practice and as well as academia. There are several forms of CSR. There are several forms of CSR and which we need to concern ourselves with. Concern for consumers. Concern for consumers. Are products safe and well designed? Consumers will be interested in whether our products are safe and well designed. Are product priced fairly? Are advertisement clear and not deceptive? Are credit terms clear? Is adequate product information available? Are customers fairly treated by salespeople? These are some concerns, some form of CSR concerns to consumers. It is also concerned employees. So CSR also concerns employees. Here we are looking at internal CSR. Are employees paid fair wages? Okay? Whether we are exploiting our employees or we are paying them the right prices. Are employees provided safe work environment? Are workers hired, promoted, and treated fairly without regard to sex, race, colors, or creed? Are employees given special training and educational opportunities? Are handicapped people given employment opportunities? Does the business help rehabilitate employees with physical, mental, or emotional problems? These are some concerns for employees. When firms engage in all this, then you are engaging in form of CSR. Concern for the environment. Another form of CSR is about the environment. Is the environment adequately protected from unclean air and water, excessive noise, and other types of pollutions? Are products packaged biodegradable or recyclable? And any byproducts that pose a safety hazard to society, such as nuclear waste or commercial solvents, carefully handled and properly treated or disposed of. This is about the environment. So clearly, then the general society as a whole, does the firm support minority and community enterprises by purchasing from them or subcontracting to them? For instance, our oil industry is an area where a lot of people believe that we should be sourcing from local content or local sources. That is areas that we are capable of. Are donations made to help people and support education, art, health, and community development programs? Is the social impact of plant locations or relocations considered by managers who make those decisions? So clearly, these are some forms of CSR. It's not just targeted at customers, but it's also targeted at employees. It's also targeted at the general society, the environment. So our CSR target forms will differ. Now, here we can broadly classify this into what we call internal and external CSR, where sometimes when we are doing things for the general society, for the customers, then it's internal. And when we are looking at the environment and when we are looking at the society as a whole, then we are looking at the external form of CSR. Now, we have just been introduced to what corporate social responsibility is. And we've gone through, there are several types of CSR. CSR hasn't got a single definition. There are several definitions of CSR, and a lot of stakeholders. There are several key concepts in CSR as well, and there are several forms of CSR, and there are criticisms and those who also favor CSR. And here we have looked at CSR purely from business perspective, and we have also demonstrated why CSR is gaining prominence among scholars and business practice as well.